Set Phasers, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast.
We're recording this on video, so I could, in theory, post your little dance that we do.
What dance?
The little dance that we do while the intro's playing.
No, there's no dance. We're very serious people. We sit in silence. We stare straight ahead while the video is playing.
Yes.
That's how I do it.
That's what we do here. Yeah. Well, hello, Aki.
Well, hello, Stevie. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. I'm well. I'm just so excited with all of this Trek and these Trek-related announcements, Mr. LeVar Burton.
What did LeVar Burton? Oh, that he's going to be...
yes. Jeopardy host.
These are very exciting things.
The people willed it, and it happened.
The people willed it, and also maybe someone who was not the best candidate was selected.
Also that.
And so it's happening the proper way now. Yeah, is.
Yes. I was just telling Aki that if you're trying to do a sort of received pronunciation British accent like the Queen, if you say ears, as in the things that you listen to music with, it sounds like yes, but posh. So ears,
yes,
indeed. Ears.
Also, if you say it with an American accent, it just sounds like ears. Ears. That sounds lovely.
Ears.
Okay, welcome to Set Phasers, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast. That was our cold open. Today's star date is
322823.8,
and we're discussing Lower Decks Season 2, Episode 2, Kayshon, His Eyes Open, which is like a dead giveaway right in the title.
Yeah.
And we're going to have some fun with Tanarians. Shall we run it down?
Let's run it down.
It's time to run it down.
Can you run it down for me? Tell me what just happened. Can you run it down for me?
I'd only be happy to. Okay, so we begin, things are as they are. Boimler is still not on the ship, so the crew, the gang that hangs, the Lower Decks gang, I forget what shift they were. They're like beta shift.
Beta.
There was a time they were fighting
They were
Delta
talking about
shift.
Delta, yeah.
Yeah, so their beta shift gang is Mariner, Rutherford, and Tendi. And then Jet shows up. Jet, who was like the cool dude who was like the ex-boyfriend of Boimler's girlfriend in season 1, right? Or something like that.
Yeah,
On
the
the
hot one who
Titan.
then figured out he had an alien in him, that one.
Yeah. So
yes.
He's been transferred to the Cerritos, and he introduced himself to Mariner. Mariner's like, great, join in. I'm sort of the leader on here. And he's like, oh, really? Because he sort of is a leadery type. And they go into the communal sonic showers, which is hilarious. And they start winding up each other, and they basically drive everyone out of the showers as they send these sonic waves. Super hot, I guess. Hot waves.
I was really wondering about what that sensation would be like.
Just hot music. It's like techno. I don't know. It's like a lot of bass drops. Anyway, so we get into the real meat of the story. It's Captain Freeman they're doing a log date. It's 58001.2. Talking about, people in the Star Trek world who are like wealthy, adventuring people who like to gather fancy artifacts and hold on to them, and how they're called collectors. And a prominent collector by the name of Kerner Howes has died. And the Collectors Guild, a guild, I guess, of these wealthy, well-to-do people, has asked the Federation to help catalog Kerner Howes' sort of like, his collection. So Freeman is talking to Chairman Siggy, who's the chairman of the guild, and he's like, just go in there and check stuff out, but I'm going to be watching too, because I don't want you to take anything. I just want to make sure we don't have anything that like will blow me up. Freeman is kind of like upset and nervous because she's waiting on the results of her command evaluation test. Ooh. And so they throw the task of leading the away team to the new head of security, Lieutenant Kayshon, a Tanarian, who immediately shows up and starts speaking in metaphor. It says he has a little trouble with the universal translator and is rusty on his Federation standards. So that brings some joyful things happen while that's going on. And the gang of Beta Shift are going to be going with Lieutenant Kayshon to the collector ship to catalog all the stuff. And they're like, oh man, wish Boimler was here. He'd really love this. And they're like, he's probably having a great time. Meanwhile, Boimler's on the Titan in a huge firefight with Pakleds, and Riker tells him to do this particular thing, and they take out the Pakled ship, and everyone cheers, and Boimler's like pretty freaked out and destroyed. It seems like he's like pretty enervated, I guess, maybe a little anxious about being on the ship where they're constantly fighting. It seems like they're always flying into things and flying out of things and fighting and shooting. Meanwhile, back on the Cerritos, the group shows up. They meet Lieutenant Kayshon. Jet sucks up a little bit, but they go down to the collector ship, and Siggy basically gives them the whole rundown, and they're looking through stuff, and there's some weird Easter eggs here.
There's a ton of Easter eggs. This entire episode
There's
is
a ton of Easter eggs, yeah.
Episode of Easter eggs, which we will get to later on. Thank you, Augie.
Later on in Easter egg segment. So I'll just go say there's some stuff that happens. Siggy's kind of wary of Tendi, who's an Orion, who are, pirates, so to speak, in the Trek lore. And so she's upset about that, and he's keeping an eye on her. He's also interested in Rutherford as possibly being added to his collection. And so that's what's happening there. Meanwhile, Riker is having his command staff meeting, and they're saying that the Pakleds are after Veruvian ore, and there's something weird about the way they're attacking, that maybe there's another player involved. And Boimler's having trouble keeping up. He's got like 40 logs in his hand at the table while everyone else is sort of talking. They're all like really hardened, badass Starfleet people. One of them has a ridiculous I was like, is that Jason Statham or someone just doing a Jason Statham type voice?
I didn't look into it, but I can if you like.
I didn't either. There were a lot of voices I did recognize, but that guy, was like, this is so weird that they chose this gruff British commando voice. And they think there may be another player involved, so they're going to have the away team, which is basically the command staff, which makes no sense, but whatever, it's cool. That's Star Trek. Embed themselves in a Veruvian mining colony on Carzil 4. And the hope is that the Pakleds will show up there. They'll put a locator on the ship, and then they'll be able to follow the Pakleds back to their Veruvian thing and figure out what's going on there. Meanwhile, on the collector ship, something happens. Someone must have moved something or touched something or stole something that they shouldn't have. Dun, dun, dun. And automated defenses are set into play, and like a hologram of the collector shows up, and he's like, because you tried to steal from my collection, I will make you part of the collection. And Lieutenant Kayshon gets blasted with an energy weapon, and he's turned into a puppet. Then a flying orb comes out and it starts shooting at them. I wrote down what happens. Snakes are released from one thing that start jumping at them. Swords are thrown out of a thing. The comms are blocked, so they're unable to contact the ship. And Jet and Mariner are fighting over who's in charge and who should save the Kayshon doll and how to get out of there. They do manage to get out of this one gallery into a hallway, and they're looking at the plans of the ship, and Mariner has this plan that's like, we got to fight our way to the engineering and turn off the thing. And Jet cuts her off and says, no, let's do this much safer plan to go this way. And Mariner's like, no, we're going to do my cool thing. And everyone's like, actually, I think we'll go with Jet's plan. Seems less risky. Meanwhile, the undercover op that the Titan crew is headed to is underway. They're on a ship headed toward Carzil. Oh, no. Oh, Carzil 4. I said it right. I didn't have to look up. And, but it's interesting. Boimler obviously loves Enterprise D. They're sort of making fun of the Enterprise. They're talking about how their captain, they're like, can't believe Riker hung out on the Enterprise D and like listened to string quartets and got dressed in period costume and did plays and stuff. They're like, sucks. We're so cool. We like beating up the bad guys. And Boimler's kind of like, oh, that sucks. On the Cerritos, Freeman is super distracted, and Ransom starts to wonder what it is, and it's because Freeman has been reading her command evaluation and has been told that she micromanages. And she's very upset about this, so she says she's not going to check in on Lieutenant Kayshon, she's just going to let him do what he's doing because she trusts him. Meanwhile, the away team is down there fighting off all sorts of things. They almost get sucked into an organic matter compactor. Inorganic matter into an inorganic matter compactor. Oh, the tongue twisters are back.
What?
Into an inorganic matter compactor. Into an inorganic matter compactor.
Okay.
Killer Romulan warrior nuts. And that'll never leave my brain. And the Siggy basically runs away because he's got nothing inorganic on him. We assume, but they're sucking at Rutherford's implants. Everyone's trying to, pull Rutherford out, and he's getting his implants getting almost sucked out of his head. But then the giant machine that was attacking them at the beginning of that scene gets sucked into the inorganic matter compactor, and it shuts it down. They save Rutherford, and then they discover Siggy in the next room, which is full of like weird bones and skeletons. One huge one on the ceiling with a Starfleet uniform on it, and they discover that Siggy is the one who stole something from the collection. What he stole? God. They call it a sex helmet, but earlier on it was referred to as Kaylesh's fornication helmet. Kaylesh's fornication helmet. And that's why there was an alert, and that's why the alarms got all tripped up, and that's why they're fighting for their lives. Meanwhile, he tries to back away. He trips yet another alarm and is crushed by the giant skeleton, and then further crushed by the skull of the giant skeleton. Mariner and Jet start fighting about who was wrong and who was right and where they should have gone this way. There's a bunch of flying Roombas flying around, basically little vacuums. Mariner gets upset and hits one, and then they all turn red and decide to start attacking the crew by slowly sucking them to death. And so Jet and Mariner now are fighting over how to deal with that. Meanwhile, the Titan team gets down to the planet. The base has already been taken over by the Pakleds. The team was given orders to avoid the Pakleds, but they see one Pakled in the corner and they decide to stun it so it doesn't send up an alarm before they're able to put the tracker on the thing. Turns out to be a pile of snacks. Their cover is blown and they're being chased by Pakleds through the mining facility. Back on the collector ship, Jet has used the giant bones and everything to create a barrier, and he and Mariner are still arguing about who does what best. Mariner thinks Jet wants to be a model commander. Jet thinks Mariner wants to be a renegade hero. They're upset about their different approaches, but then they bond over making fun of their superior officers and how they just want to do what's right, and maybe they have different approaches, and they both apologize and take fault for what's happened, and they decide maybe neither of them should be in charge. And so they say, hey, Rutherford, Tendi, what should we do? And Rutherford and Tendi go, oh, well, we're not in charge. But then they come up with a sweet plan to use the bones to make an acid compound that will allow them to cut through the panels of the ship to get to like the Jeffries tubes to get out.
I feel like that whole sort of sequence could have been used for some sort of like internal team management examples of what not to do and how to resolve conflict.
That's how I would use it. Yeah, I'd be like, okay, let's watch this 5-minute clip from Lower Decks and discuss how management is like this and not like this. Who's the Tendi on your team? Okay, so yeah, I've done events like that.
Have you?
Meanwhile, on the mining colony, they're still running from the Pakleds. They managed to get behind some like blast doors and at the center of the mining thing where the drill is, but there's a distortion field because of the Veruvian stuff, and so they're unable to transport out. And Riker's like, stay there, we're going to try to figure something out. The 3 other people on the away team prepare. They're like, well, this is how we're going to go out. And they get their phasers out. They're like, it's been great. And they're all like giving each other like the last handshake before they make a futile stand, an Alamo. And then Boimler was like, well, you know what? That's not really why I got into Starfleet. He's like, I got into it because I like diplomacy and sciencey stuff and figuring out things. And I love string quartets. And then the rest of the team sort of remembers that they didn't also they got into Starfleet for weird things. One of them got into to study moss. The other one just loves transporter beams. But Boimler mentions how the Riker, when he was on the Enterprise D, did have an accidental a transporter mishap that led to his transporter clone twin, Thomas, being created, and that the radiation is a lot like the radiation down here. And then he's like, I have an idea, and he runs over to a thing. Tendi and Rutherford's plan works out well on the collector ship. Tendi gets super badass and says, stay alert, stay alive, and they're able to get out into a ship and get out of the thing. On the mining colony, the Pakleds get through the door. Boimler initiates the mining drill, reverses the polarity, the usual Star Trek fake jargon. The Titan is able to get a signal lock because the reverse polarity disperses the field that wasn't letting them get out. They're able to transport everyone but Boimler. And then there's a huge explosion, and Boimler ends up trapped underneath rubble, and he's being attacked by Pakleds while he's trapped under the rubble, and he's screaming for his life. But they do manage to get him out after the usual, like, it doesn't work, and then Riker says, like, double the frequency or something. And they manage to get Boimler out. And then as they're sort of like celebrating that, there's a Starfleet shuttle coming from the surface. And they're like, how's that possible? And they transport the person on the shuttle directly from the shuttle onto the ship. And it's Boimler's transporter clone because obviously he reversed the polarity. There was an explosion. He now has a transporter clone. So now there are two of them. Two Boimlers, twice the Boim. And, do we have our Boimler?
Oh, that was the one thing I did not find today. I might have it. And
Not
just
super important. I mean, just for me.
Momentito. Boimler? That was really worth it, wasn't it?
That was worth it. That was worth the wait.
There it is.
Okay, so one of them will have to return to the Cerritos as an ensign, and the other one can stay on in command staff. One of the Boimlers tricks the other. I assume it's the new Boimler that tricks the old Boimler because that's the only thing that makes sense, into saying, I'll go, thinking that the other one will also volunteer, but he doesn't. He's like, I'm going to stay here. And so he gets walked out by Riker, who's sort of like, you know what? You should enjoy being on a ship that isn't always fighting people and gets to do weird sciencey stuff while it lasts. And the other Boimler immediately starts sucking up to Riker. But the Boimler who is being sent back as an ensign, he gets like, the away team comes and goes, you did great out there, Boimler. And thanks for reminding us what Starfleet's all about. I like how even though these shows are so silly and over the top and ridiculous, they still, like, the pathos of Starfleet is still so important.
Well, it's Mike
like,
McMahon for you.
Even like Mariner and Jet fighting, they're like so understanding when they come to a realization that they just have a difference of approach to trying to be a good officer. Anyway, get off my soapbox. We cut to the end of things. We're in sickbay. Kayshon is there as a puppet. The doc is like, don't worry about it. This is not my first person turned into a puppet. He'll be fine in an hour. Jet and the gang go down to the 10 forwards type area. They're eating street corn, and they're talking about how, you know what, we're all good. This is going to be a good time. We're going to be great new friends. This is a new group. But then Mariner sees Boimler and immediately pushes Jet out of the way. And then they give Boimler Jet's seat. And Jet's like, well, you guys probably have to talk. But then they completely disregard him altogether. Boimler explains that there was a transporter clone mishap, and that's why he came back. Rutherford wins a transporter clone bet with Tendi. Apparently he knew it was going to happen. Jet walks away upset. I don't think that'll be the last. I feel like Jet is going to become sort of a nemesis now of Boimler.
That would make sense.
Don't you think? He felt like they made a big deal out of how angry he was when he walked away.
He was a bit pissed. Or put out.
Put out. He was put out. Yeah, excuse me. Ears. He was put out.
Yes. He was rather put out.
He was rather put out.
You sound like such a villain.
Kayshon returns to the mess. They send Boimler to get shots, and they say he's going to have to get all the shots from now on because he abandoned them. And the very last scene is Kayshon trying to hit on an ensign, which is probably going to be my quote of the episode. And that is the end of episode 2 of season 2 of Star Trek Lower Decks. Kayshon, his eyes opened. A few things of note, because I listen to a lot of LA comedian, like improv people podcasts. I immediately noticed Paul F. Tompkins' character was back briefly. The doctor, he's at the beginning and plays with the puppet at the end. Also, the voice of Rayshawn is, I believe, Carl Tart. I haven't looked any of this up. He's a comedian, and the voice of this is just a weird thing. I believe, another guess here, the transporter like tech who's helping Riker get. I think that was Jess McKenna, another great improviser.
You are.
Am I right?
3 for 3.
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, and Jess McKenna, in fact, played Ensign Barnes.
Yes.
She continues to play the Cerritos computer.
Oh, I didn't know she was a computer. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Jess McKenna's wonderful. Jess McKenna and Carl Tarrant are fantastic, so it's just cool that they're on that show because I put them. They're very funny people, and they get it because they did a great job. Anyway, those are nerdy outlier things that I noticed. So it was a great show.
Good for you. That was a good one.
Shall we?
Easter eggs.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Aki Berbice, and you've come to the part of the show where we go to Easter eggs. We're going to go to our friend Stevie Man's on the corner. Stevie, you're on the corner of episode 2. What have you got to say?
Well, hello there, Aki. As always, it's great to be here, and so many Easter eggs for us today.
It's great to be here, and great to be here.
I don't know why I always do that. Feels like they always do that when their correspondents. Hey, it's great to be here.
Yeah.
It's great to be here. Well, as I say, this was an episode of Easter eggs. It was the Easter egg of Easter eggs of episodes of Easter eggs, if you will.
Yes, your ears.
It is indeed.
Ew.
So the collector, whose name I have somewhat forgotten, but so when you go into that big collector's room, the guy who's has his painting, whatever, he looks very much like and is meant to look like the collector from the episode with Data called The Most Toys. Do you remember? There was the good actor who was in Frasier. I've forgotten his name.
Yes.
But he was wearing weirdly the same uniform. It was a uniform because he's a collector.
Yeah.
I thought that was a bit
just
weird.
like
But he
his
had the
clothes
same.
or whatever.
Yeah, his clothes, and he was clearly the same species as well. So I thought that was like a nice little throwback. So this is clearly what we're
That's great.
referencing. If you spot
and they
nothing
did mention
else,
that they all tried to collect data. Like collectors always wanted to collect data.
Yeah. So Mr. Boimler obviously became the transporter clone, which is a nice little throwback to TNG. I forget which episode that was, so apologies, I didn't look that one up. Did you notice the robot killers, the ones that were like after the sort of Roombas were sent out, they were like the robot killers. Now, do you remember like in TNG season 1, the Arsenal of Freedom, and it was like when they go down to the planet, I think it was Minos, and they had these weird and they like zapped and things. That for me was like, I'm not sure, they didn't look exactly the same because they had sort of like a head and then kind of a body to it, but like the actual head of it was just sort of this spherical thing with this weird laser thingy bob. Other things, that was a deep one, but like I really remember that one, I think, from my childhood, so I was like, oh, that looks familiar. The fornication helmet of Kayshon. There were just lots of these little things like spread around in the collector room, and like, so when you could dig into some of the forums or whatever, and someone was like, oh, I thought the shark was the Damien Hirst shark.
Right. Yeah.
I thought it was I don't know about that. I felt that was a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't put it past them to be like, let's just throw every goofy thing into this in the background.
That's very possible.
Somewhere,
Did you notice that the thing that was about to fall on Lieutenant Kayshon from the glass case was the necklace of Khan?
No, I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Deep cut.
I missed that.
Yeah, that's cool. And the Chateau Picard wine box. Did you see that?
Yes, I saw that. Yes.
And then the giant skeleton. So you'll love this because I think this is another like deep track cut. And it was, I think it was the giant Spock. So with it, there was an episode in the animated series where they cloned a giant Spock.
Yes. That's totally what it was.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I was trying to figure out from what TOS episode it was, but it wasn't. It was actually from the animated series.
Oh man, I was looking at it and I was like, that's a reference to something for sure. But I couldn't think of who would become a giant. It's from the
weird,
first TAS, as they say. The animated
TAS,
series. Yes.
that's correct. But yeah, those were like there were so many things in there. I think someone even said that they spotted Marty McFly's sneakers, and there were a pair of sneakers. I didn't think they looked like Marty McFly's ones. Yeah, there was just a lot in there, and it was quite fun because I was like pausing and seeing what I could find. But because I got on the second watch, that's what I did and it fits it all in within about 2 minutes. There was a trombone.
Yes, there was a trombone.
And then there is a theory floating that trombone was from the episode where Riker gets cloned and he gives his trombone to Thomas Riker.
Wow.
Yeah.
To Thomas.
This is a shot in the dark, but it's possible. And you know how nerdy these writers are, so I thought that could be it. But did you spot any more?
No, I mean I was proud of myself for the Chateau Picard. I knew that if I was taking notes on the show, so I knew if I just paused and screen capped and try to find things. But I feel like just on like third and fourth watches later down the line, it'll be fun to see stuff that I missed that's in the background there. That with the pod that they were moving towards the end looked like a Genesis pod. I mean, it's all over the place.
Oh yeah,
Right
totally.
before the thing got set off from Search for Spock, which of course makes sense that then they would have I can't believe I missed the Khan thing. That's ridiculous. That's preposterous.
Look at your face.
Yeah. So good to hear from you, and good to hear from you.
Thank you, Aki. That's back to you in the studio.
All right, thank you very much, and that has been Easter egg. Good night and good luck. That's actually a better button on the end of that segment.
Well, there's the ending. It's a bit more of a trumpet. If you want to hear that one. I find that a little bit too much.
That feels more like you stuck the landing on something.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Well, before we get into next time, I do want to mention two things because we talked last episode about how maybe there's like a larger overarching plot here, and I think they're trying to set up a few things. Like, first of all, there's some dangling threads. Like, I know Jet, maybe not, but it seems like he's on the ship for permanence, so he's probably gonna have a little beef with Boimler and them. And Captain Freeman is, it was mentioned in episode 1 that maybe she could move up in her ranking, maybe get a different ship. And now she's dealing with this command evaluation thing. And then finally, Riker mentions that they think there's another player in the works with the whole Pakled thing in the Veruvian ore, but they never get to who that player is because the team botched the mission and they had to leave. But there's probably something like the chain out there.
Did you say the chain?
Do you still have that? You don't still have that.
Sure do. I think I got pulled up for copyright on this.
Emerald chain. Yeah, we're in deep trouble.
Oh, don't.
It could be anything. It's just a person stepping around and noodling on a guitar. The emerald chain. You'll never break the emerald chain.
No. Anyway.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think it's interesting that there might be some larger plot points there coming for the season arc, and I thought that was cool. And maybe we won't see the last of Mr. Boimler.
That's true. And I think that was a nice point, because it was like both and, because Boimler genuinely did want to be on both ships, and now he kind of gets to. Yeah. One thing I did wonder, and I wonder if you had this thought, was with replacing Shax, because Kayshon came back, so I wondered whether or not we were going to lose Kayshon, and then we were going to sort of have a rotating chief
Master
of security
kind of deal.
Yeah.
It seems like maybe I don't know. So I looked briefly to see if it was someone I knew, and they weren't mentioned. The only person they mentioned as like a guest star was Riker, which makes sense because I guess he would be a guest star, so everyone else would just be an actor. I don't know. I was thinking if it was Carl Tart, he's the kind of person that could stick around and do that part for the season. But maybe we lose the head security officer every season. It's like a throwback to TNG.
Cashier.
Yeah.
Maybe.
You just always lose your head security officer in a blaze of glory although hers wasn't a blaze of glory. It was so sad and stupid.
Yeah.
Ugh. Anyway, next time on Set Phasers. And it should be mentioned that you did come back and get to play other characters. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Set Phasers. Thank you for joining us. If you enjoyed the program, you can catch a ton of old episodes. We've covered all of the first 3 seasons of Star Trek Discovery, the first season of Star Trek Picard, and the first season of Lower Decks. And we will keep covering stuff as long as I can get to a microphone wherever I am in the world. And Stevie has to do all the rest of the stuff, basically.
I get the hard job.
True. And then you can catch new episodes every Monday wherever you get your podcast from. So please do that.
Yeah, and our little podcast, apparently, Aki, we're actually doing quite well in after shows in Japan.
Get out of town. We're big in Japan.
For realsies.
Finally.
Yeah, I think we were like top 40 or something of
What?
after
Top
shows.
40?
In Canada, we're certainly top 100. I think we dropped 20 places.
Wow.
I don't know where this stuff comes
Well,
from.
you know,
so
there
I
are
get
no
some sort
shows
of email
on.
every
We're
now and
going to
again.
climb back up that ladder.
That's
Japan
true.
and Canada, we're taking
Yeah.
it over. All right.
Ireland, we did quite well in Ireland.
Great. Ireland. Did I do
These
that right?
things, yeah.
Ar-
Of course, you can follow us. Or Ireland. We're doing well in the old Irish space with Mr. O'Brien. Mr. O'Brien.
I bet we'll do. I'm Irish deaf. I can't hear Irish accents.
And if you want to follow us on all of our socials, we are at SetPhasers and at SetPhasers Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. Hashtag Gaming Strong.
Gaming Game Strong. And if you want to support us on our continuing mission to discover what else Star Trek has in store for us, we'd only be delighted. You can patronize us. We can take it by going to patreon.com/setphasers and helping us keep the lights on. Mostly just buy coffee.
And we offer... That's pretty much true. But we offer whatever. We have our Netflix watch
That's right.
parties. We have our Ask Us
We
Anythings.
do.
And we have little Set Phasers pins if you want
Yeah,
a pin.
pins.
We
They're
can
even-
set
you
you,
can even, if
set
you're-
you free with a
If you're
pin.
feeling crazy, you can buy them
Yeah.
out. No, don't. I'm
That's
not
true.
saying you got
I made
to.
my wife wear our
You
pin.
made
with
your
the
wife
faces
wear
on it.
our pin? Why would you do that?
Well, I gave her the pin.
And then you're like, where's the
and
pin?
I think she felt obligated.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty
It's
much.
just like, well, it was a gift. Great.
Yes. She took it. We went to a restaurant and she took it off, and I was like, "Where's the pin?"
And
She was like, "Oh, I just."
she was like, I
wanted
figured
to
we're
look
in
smart
public
at the
now, so
restaurant."
I wouldn't have to work
Yeah.
this big.
But it'll look cool on whatever you're
There you
wearing.
go. Yeah.
If you're a fan of the
That's
Set
right.
Phasers show, show your fandom.
Show
indeed.
your fandom.
Yes. But yes. Okay. Well, it was. Are we done with our
You do a
salesy
thing
things?
and then I do a thing. Yeah, I think it's all of our
I do
selling
a thing.
thing.
Okay. That's it. Super duper. Well, until next time, I am Stevie Mans.
And I am Aki Burmese, and this has been Shaka when the walls fell. We forgot to do quotable
End
moments.
program. Oh crap. Next time on Set
Next time we'll
Phasers,
do
quotable moments.
quotable moments. We'll do
Oh,
quotable.
we could do it
moments.
quickly now.
Okay,
After
quotable
thing.
moments.
What's your quotable moments? What was your quotable moment?
It's just going to be the pickup line he tried to use at the end.
Oh, mine was, let's see how this Pakleds do with their aft hanging out.
Oh, I did write that down.
clever.
That was
That was a good
great.
one.
That was so Riker great. Let's see
Yeah.
how these Pakleds do with their aft hanging out. I liked, are you tired because you've been Arnok at the race of Natara through my mind all night?
I like it. I like it.
Yeah, that was good.
All right. Should we close it out now?
Let's close it out, for God's
Oh
sake.
boy. Computer, close it down.